Hello, and welcome to the Ascendant Art Podcast, where we are on a search for art that is ascending above the mainstream. This is Mike with Catalytic Comics, with co-host Vinny from Little Chad, and Joey from the Keeper's Cairn. And tonight, we have got something mega. We have got Tyler C. World and Girl with the Mega Fists. Very interesting comic that I have been subscribing to and reading along for some time. So how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
Doing great, thanks.
I'm excited. I'm loving. I want to slouch too. I know no one can see this because it's audio, but I want to look just as relaxed as
we are a conversational, relaxed podcast.
I'm ready. I'm ready. Let's do this.
Nice.
You may have listened to more of our episodes than anyone else we've had on, so that's good for you.
I think it's important that if you're going to be a guest on someone's show, you better know what you're going to get yourself into. Because if you watch the show, if you don't watch their show, and all of a sudden you find out something goes way off track, and then you find out that they do that all the time, that was on you for not doing your research. So I've listened to several episodes, so I don't get some crazy questions like, so what are your thoughts on Russian propaganda? I'll be like, oh, I'm in the wrong space.
That's right.
It's bad.
We deal with Chinese propaganda here.
And that's the thing is, I'm Chinese, and so I don't want to talk about that stuff because I'm like the Manchurian candidate. I'm ready to rise up. When President Xi Jinping says it's time, I go, I'm ready to take over America. I'm a sleeper agent.
Guys, we found the spy.
Sleeper cell.
We found the spy.
We got the sleeper.
I think I've identified the two questions I was going to have for tonight, which is, what is your opinion on Russian propaganda, and what is your opinion on Chinese propaganda?
There you go.
What is it? We're going to channel Austin Powers. Yay, communism.
No
That's
propaganda.
Right.
It's not propaganda if it's truth. There we go. There's my.
That reminds me, remember in Seinfeld when Jerry was asking George how to beat the lie detector, and he looked Jerry straight in the eye and was like, Jerry, it's not a lie if you believe it. And there you go. That's how you beat the lie detector.
That's right. You just create your own reality and live in nothing else. Although, granted, we are all creators of reality, each creating our own little worlds with our stories. And I guess that kind of gets into the question. Of course, I know, I think it's the campaign is open currently, right? With your comic. Yeah, so man, tell us about that.
That's a great question. I should have a freaking pitch ready to go. No, so my book's called The Girl with the Mega Fist. It's a 200 page epic story. It's a tale about a girl who's fighting against love and destiny, and while training to become the ultimate hero. So, the story is about this girl named Eliana, and she's destined to wield the Mega Fists and protect Earth. And along the way, she has to bring someone from the opposite god faction to Earth with her. And normally the gods choose who your partner is going to be, but on this particular occasion, the gods chose two twin brothers, and she has to choose between one of the brothers to take down. Is she going to bring down to Earth the strongest of the brothers, or is she going to bring down the one that she loves? And so it's a constant conflict between following your heart, but also doing what your duty is, which, her duty is to protect Earth from a bunch of evil forces. And what happens if she brings the weaker brother? Does that mean that
and he's not able to complete the mission?
Exactly. And so there's this constant conflict between, she lives in a community that's very this is your job. You better do it. And there's constant pressure for her to be someone that she might not want to be.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting with the imagery. So at this point, I've read several of the initial issues. And I know when you mentioned the 200 pages, I know that's an anthology of the existing ones. So I have a couple of comments about that. One is, the community setup was pretty interesting. And also, too, when you mentioned the training, I thought one of the kind of funnier things out of it was the very first training scene you see, they don't start with some little imp or something. They go right to the behemoth.
Yes.
They have one hell of a learning curve.
Well, I guess one thing that I did, and I probably should have done a better job at it, because I have answered this question, is they train for 20 years. Their training phase is for 20 years. So they've been training for several years before the chapter 1. I skipped 18 years of their life because I was like, I don't care about these years. I should probably, maybe I should do some flashbacks to when they're kids in future chapters. But they've been training for 18 years. The boys come in, the two twin brothers, they show up late, and in punishment, Eliana's father's like, you know what, you guys think you guys are so big, so strong. Here's the behemoth. Very few people have been able to defeat him. Good luck.
I was going to say putting the two guys in line.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I have to admit, I did like that introduction for those two characters. So That one, I just like to dive into a couple parts of the world first, I guess. So I remember there's kind of like, it almost looks like this community up in the sky. I'm almost kind of reminded of like Thor's world. So what are the big factions and what are the relationships?
Yeah, so you have this like, yeah, kind of like this like city in the sky, and it's split into 7 different districts. And of these districts, it's populated by 2 factions. There's 2 sets of gods in our story. You have the mega gods and you have the almighty gods. And so these factions they intermingle with each other. That's not I'm better than you. It's just like this is my faction, and we kind of worship these gods essentially. And the mega gods, they every 10 years they choose someone who's going to represent them, and they're going to wield the mega fist, and the almighty gods choose someone and they're going to wield the powers of the almighty. And so these communities are really there. The people who live in these cities, they're there. Well, spoiler alert, because we don't delve into this until very later into the story, but they're really there to support the gods. The gods are really nothing without these people, and so they're there just to support the mission, and the mission is to protect Earth. The gods set up everything to protect Earth.
Because apparently they're at war with some kind of existential evil on the other side of it.
Yeah. So you have these 2 sets of gods, the mega gods and the almighty gods, and they're going to rule over Earth and protect it. Well, you have this third god who you'll find out later what happens, but he's essentially been kicked off of his throne, and he's cast aside. He's a quote unquote fallen angel, and he's so pissed. He's made it his mission to just I'm going to destroy Earth. I want to destroy everything that you guys are about. And he's just pure evil, no redemption. And his name is Baal. And so he sends his sons of Baal, which are like shape-shifting demons. And he sends them down to Earth to just kill humans and wreak havoc. And that's why the almighty god and the mega god decided that they need to send 2 heroes down to Earth to reign and protect the people down there.
Interesting. So when you first were starting to put the idea together, what was your inspiration? What made you say, like, I got to tell this story? Because I've watched it develop over the last several months in my case. I know it's probably gone much longer for you.
I had just gotten done canceling a successful Kickstarter, and was kind of like in this creative rut where I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do, where I'm going. I don't have a plan. So I took 3 months off of making comics and was just doodling. And one day I doodled some girl. I just got done watching like a Hellboy Mike Mignola documentary. And so I'm drawing her, and I was like, oh, let me just throw all these massive like gauntlets. And a coworker was like, who's that? And I was like, I don't know. It's just some girl with some mega fists. And I was like, oh, well, that sounds kind of cool. And I still have like the sketch somewhere on my desk. And I was like, okay, let's see what we can do with this. And I just started asking questions. Why does she have the mega fist? Where did she get this mega fist? What is the mega fist? What can the mega fist even do? And as I start asking myself these questions, I start then creating lore. And out of lore, I then was able to build out, you have the almighty gods and you have the mega gods, and they send out a hero from the almighty and a hero from the mega. And you go, okay, sweet. But all good stories are based in conflict. They're swimming in conflict. And I was like, okay, this is just a standard superhero story. What if this time around she had to choose her partner instead of the gods choosing it for her? Because if you are kind of robotic in your lifestyle, you don't really wiggle in what your beliefs are. But the moment that there is a choice, you then start asking questions. And so, we throw in the conflict of, is she going to choose the brother that she loves? Is she going to choose the brother who's the strongest? And because she has to make this choice, now she has to ask, why can I only bring one? Why are there all these rules? Well, who made these rules? Why is there this system? And now our story has conflict, and now we can start developing the characters from level 1 to level 10.
Is there potential for conflict between the brothers as well, considering, like, I would imagine they both consider this their birthright, and they're being told only one of you gets it?
Yes and no. So, these characters are so important. I know it's the girl with the mega fist, but these brothers are just as equally as important to the story. And what it really is you have one brother who is like, I want to be with Eliana because I love her. And then you have the other brother who is like, I don't give a... Can I swear on this? Is there rules?
Oh, yeah, we're more than a minute in.
Yeah, we're past 1 minute, so.
Is that the rule?
Yeah, I think that's the YouTube rule.
Okay, note to self. But then you have the other brother who's like, I don't give a shit about any of this. Like, I don't care about any of these, like, rules, whatever. If I get picked, I get picked. If I don't, it is what it is. And there's a reason why that this brother, the brother who doesn't care, there's a reason why he does, and I won't spoil it because it's in volume 1. But the reason why he doesn't is, and that's something that I really learned with this, writing this book, is that a good story has constant conflict, and conflicts just keep popping up everywhere. And so we have the conflict of the love triangle. We have the conflict of, Eliana. But now we have the conflict of the brothers, who one says, pick me, and you have the other one who's like, I don't give a shit, and this is why. And that's a conflict.
And yet the guy who doesn't care is more qualified.
Definitely. So, yes. You spoiled it, but yes. No, but you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
And then you made a good point, which, by the way, like, while I've been reading this, I honestly didn't think about this, but I guess it's true. The question of, like, why can't all three of us go?
Yes. Or why did the gods even do this? Like, what was the point? I had one of our Patreon members, because it's a Patreon exclusive first digital book, and then after that we'll release it to other places. And I had one Patreon member who eventually became the editor of the book. He just sent me a 3-page email going, why this? Why that? Why this? Why that? And I was just like, I want to answer all these, but that's the conflict, really, is why. Like, why are all these happening? And so we've set the stage with a constant conflict that will resonate through the entire series.
Nice. And I was going to say, also, I was pretty intrigued with one thing that you mentioned about the creative process, because I'm starting to see this a little bit with my looking back, like, on the development of one of my own stories. And that is, oftentimes, like, you don't have the whole idea at the beginning. So it's not the idea like some genius creator just births the whole idea out of his mind at once, but it really is just like, okay, I've got this one cool thing. Now I need to add something to it. And then that leads to questions. Let me add to that. Let me add to that. Mm-hmm. And then you kind of like watch this like whole thing start to organically come together, but in between, like, hey, what if we add this along with why is this here?
Yes.
And then you just kind of watch until it eventually comes together. And then after that, you got your story.
Yeah. And like, once you've built all that out, once you've built out the lore and the world and the characters, I mean, you have characters, setting, and plot, but they all need to be tied around one thing, which is conflict. I learned that from Brandon Sanderson. I didn't make that up. I watched it on TikTok.
I can totally believe it. I know on our channel, we also have the catalytic storytelling video, in which it's the same thing, except we just say, like, there has to be a change, right? Like, somebody starts here and ends here. How do they get there? That's the conflict.
Yeah.
Well, that's part of the hero's journey. You have to, at some point, venture out into the unknown. If it's all known, your hero's not going to struggle, and if your hero doesn't struggle, it's going to be pretty boring.
It's a boring story. Also, that, though, you have the creators of South Park, and they once said, if when you're writing your story, it's constant, and then this happened, and this happened, that's really bad storytelling. What it should be is, this event happens, which causes this event. Not, and then this happened, but it causes this to happen. That's when your characters and your story actually start to develop for a reason. It's not just, oh yeah, and this cop who works all night, he then comes home, finds out his wife is cheating on him, and now he's sad, and then he becomes sad. It's, that's a terrible story. You go, there's a cop and he comes home, and then he finds out his wife is cheating on him, which then causes him to, and now you have character development on what he's going to do and the choices he's going to make, which is going to cause the following events, and it's all because of cause and effect.
Nah, very nice. Tell me a little bit about your learning process. Were you always a
failure?
Yeah, like, were you always a creator? Did you like go to particular people? Was it all trial and error?
Yeah, so I've been making stories my whole life. I keep telling everyone it's in my car. I should just bring it out of my car. I made a 500-page comic when I was in 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. And it's called The Quiet Spy. And he's not quiet because he kills everyone with like a machine gun and a sword. And it's all in public. And he doesn't even do any spying. But we called him The Quiet Spy. And he's not quiet. And in fact, the original covers, because I made original covers, and then I had to unstaple them because I realized I spelled quiet wrong. It was The Quiet Spy. And my teacher was like, this is inappropriate, and you spelled quiet wrong, moron. So I've always been making comics, and I've always been making stories. And I think only now with this one, I'll tell you what with my development. I have a series, it's called Demons, and it was 15 issues. And we made it into 3 volumes. It was originally supposed to be just 4 issues. It was a very tight story, and I wrote it when I was in South Africa. And I come back from South Africa. I make this 4-issue story. I send it to a publisher, which has now gone to crap. And they are like, oh my gosh, our readers love this story. Will you continue on the story? And I'm like, oh crap. Well, I haven't really thought of anything going forward. But yes, I'll do it. Talk to my artist. We do issues 5, 6, 7, all the way up to 15. And then I just hear that we're getting sales. And I keep getting a check. And I'm like, cool beans. Publisher gives me back my rights because they fall off the planet. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to make these into graphic novels and kickstart them. Volume 1, very little people actually bought it because I was an unknown creator, still am. But the people who read it were like, that was great. Volume 2, everyone was like, wow, that was like kind of okay. And then Volume 3, the people who backed it, they were like, that was like utter shit. I don't believe them, but everyone said it was crap. So what that made me go think about in my head is I can tell a really good short story, but if I'm going to make a long form narrative, which I tried to do, I need to figure out how to tell my story and what drives a story. Because looking back at the book, yeah, it's a fun Demons. It's a fun book. It's a fun series. You know, we're going to kickstart the omnibus in May. But is it my best writing? No, because it's a bunch of and then has happened. And there's not this there's no constant conflict or stress to keep the reader engaged.
You didn't have that longer story arc that kind of ties together through multiples?
When I wrote the final scene, I was crying because I actually did tie in something from the first issue that did bleed through. No one got it. But I was writing the script and I was like, I'm a fucking genius. This is a masterpiece. And then people were like, yeah, that was the worst thing you've ever written. And I was like, you have no idea. And keep in mind, it was 30 people who read it and only 2 people actually said that to me. But still.
But they were the 2 you'll never forget.
Nope.
They're the 2 I'll never forget. One kid actually who didn't have a YouTube channel started a YouTube channel, and his first video was Why Demons Sucks. And I was like, wow, you read my book and decided I need to make a YouTube channel and review this book and trash
Just
it.
for that.
Just for that.
Damn. Did you throw a comment on it though? Tell me
we
how
still,
you really feel?
we still talk. We still talk.
Oh, that's
His name
fine.
His name is Britton.
Nice.
He's in college now, and he wrote it. He did this video when he was 16, and I was like, "Hey, fuck you, 16-year-old." And now we still talk and whatnot. So, but yeah, that comment hurt, and it made me go. It made me realize, okay, my writing needs to get better, and how can it get better? And that's when I start diving in.
For some reason, I'm just thinking about my first attempt at writing comics was about a year ago when I'm like, man, I've had a story I want to tell a long time and I'm going to do this. And then I started writing character sheets and I started writing some test scripts and gave it to the guy who's currently my letterer. And I'm like, man, I put so much effort into this. This thing is so good. And he looks at me, he's like, Michael, what the hell are you doing? go talk to Vinny over there. Vinny knows what he's doing. Get some advice.
Yeah, you almost always get that. I mean, you have something here, but it needs a lot of work when you first start with a new idea.
Yes.
I mean, it was a good idea. I really liked it, and it's really good now.
It just needed a lot of work.
It needed a lot of work.
What was the thing that needed? What needed work?
So
he had a character and a concept, but no world. There were no world settings to speak of.
Yeah, there were no world settings. It was a superhero thing, but none of the power systems were worked out. And the most important part was I had all these one-off character ideas that were all great as jokes in isolation, but jokes in isolation all put together, it's not a story, right?
No.
It can be a joke book, but it's not a story.
And that's the thing as well with I currently am working on a book and I just did it the wrong way. It's coming out in May and I just did everything wrong. And I'm kind of in this playing nurse where I'm just trying to keep bandaging. I'm hopefully by the end when people read the book, they're like, oh man, Tyler was a freaking genius.
Now, when you say book, are you talking full-on novel?
No, comic.
Yeah, I got excited.
You know what, dude? I tried writing a novel. I have a series that's called Tower of Cards, and I spent 2 weeks every night writing it, and I was telling everyone, dude, I'm so far into this novel. It's no joke. But then I took a break. Anyways, I came back to it 3 weeks ago to see where I was. I'd only written 15 pages. I was for 40 pages. I was like, man, that took forever. I didn't even get to the meat of my story. That is a whole other game. I work for a book publisher in their marketing department, and yeah, writing books. I'd be typing and then the ceiling looked like this, and the marble flooring, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I could just draw this in like 5 seconds. Like, why am I typing this all out?
Well, you draw it and then you describe it with words. Because I try to picture it in my head and I'm like, I can't fucking picture this. So I draw. I'll sketch it up.
I think what would be easier for me is I can make the comic, because I can draw real quick, and I can produce a comic, and then maybe down the road I'll just look at my panels and I'll just describe the panels, and then I'll make a book second. But yeah, the problem with this book that I'm working on the side is I have a character and I kind of have a world. There's no conflict, so I'm trying to like throw in conflict. I mean, it's a get in and get out story. Like, I don't plan on doing anything more with it. It's just a soldier and a Pokemon type monster, and they're running and gunning their way out of this country, trying to run away from the cartel. Then there's a kaiju battle, and then they escape. And then we're not doing anything else with the series. But there needs to be some kind of conflict. I truly believe that a good story has the character go from being one person to at the end being someone else. If you guys look at Common America from volume 1 to the end of volume 4, she's a completely different person. She still has her morals and whatnot, but in her beliefs, but she's a completely changed person.
No, they do a fantastic job making sure that their dynamic characters are front and center, and you see that.
Yes.
I don't think any of the main characters in that stretch is static, which there's way too many static characters that just in everything these days.
Yeah.
I'll point one out, and I love the character John Wick. Awesome, but he's a static character. He does not change.
Oh yeah, you just go. Let's be real. You will go to see that movie and you go, okay. I bring in a notepad when I go see any John Wick movie. I started doing this after I saw the first one, and I start tallying every person that dies. I just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Who
and
kills a man with a fucking pencil?
Yeah.
That's what when he actually did that in the second movie, I was like, oh, thank you. You paid it off. It was a Chekhov's gun, and they paid it off in the sequel. It was great.
So you gotta, with John Wick, he is a static character. He has zero development.
There's a lot of them nowadays. Captain Marvel.
Don't you
Tila
dare compare
from Tila, Master of the Universe.
Don't you compare John Wick to Captain Marvel?
I'm just saying, they're all static characters, and more often than not, static characters are fucking boring.
No, John Wick is... All right, so he's static in that he's already got his skill set. But in the first movie, I mean, he was out, and he had a series of events that pushed him back into the life that he had. So it's not super static, at least in John Wick 1. Now then,
what lesson did he learn or growth did he achieve?
That he needs a dog.
I was going to say, because of course, this is where on our show we have the classic Zero's journey, right? Whereas with the hero's journey, he goes into the unknown to be transformed and return back truly a hero. Whereas as soon as you started bringing up like Tila and Captain Marvel, and of course the ever so wonderful Mother of Madness review that we did, the Zero's journey is like they go out into the unknown and they come to the conclusion, my problem is I didn't realize I'm already awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Captain Marvel at the end, she's like, I'm way stronger than I thought I was, and I didn't even have to do anything extra. Like, I didn't even have to work for this. I just had it in me. Maybe that's what it is. You are powerful already, and you just didn't even know. And you don't even have to do anything to get it.
You just have to embrace your awesomeness.
Yes, embrace who you are, and you will be strong. I was actually on a podcast last week, and the creator, he's working on some documentary. He's like, I'm going to hit you with some hard-hitting inspirational questions. And he goes, and one of the questions was like, can you ever be good enough? And I was like, what do other people say? He goes, oh yeah, he goes, every other person has been like, oh yeah, you were good enough. Be true to who you are, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, well, my answer is no, you're never good enough. And he was like, and I was like, yeah, like
once you're good enough, the game's over. You lose.
Exactly. And
it's the idea that there is no further step to take. I know before I got into comics way back, like I was doing science, especially through grad school. And I still remember like the most successful professor I ever knew, like he was like literally the top guy in the world for catalysis. And he's like, you know what? I can't get better in this field. So I'm going to do cancer now. And like just totally different career. And that's the thing. It's like there's always like somewhere else to go. And if you are truly the best in the world at one thing, it's like you can then become great at something else too. So there's always like something.
You have people like Johnny Sins. He's been like medic. He's been a firefighter. No one. I don't know if any of you guys got the joke I just said. Which means Okay, we're proud of you guys. Okay, but let's look at All right, let's get off the porn. My terrible porn joke. But look at Batman. I'm a huge Batman fan. It's really hard for me. I stopped. I was a regular in my shop buying every Batman comic. For someone who's like the world's greatest everything, detective, crime fighter, he still can't beat the Joker. He still can't beat any of his villains. And I remember I picked up the last issue of Joker War. That was the final issue I ever bought of a Batman comic. And Alfred's dead. He's a changed Batman because of this. And he chooses to save Harley over letting the Joker die. And I was like, this is great. The Joker might actually stay dead this time. And then now he's chosen his wrath and hate over being saving Joker. Anyways, at the end of the story, he's like, did you guys find Joker? And Gordon's like, oh yeah, we found him and he escaped. And I don't even remember like the last 2 pages. I just chucked the comic across the room. I remember screaming. My wife was pissed because I woke up the baby, but I screamed, you can't even beat a homeless clown. I was so mad. And I think that's the problem with a lot of these mainstream comics is when you have like the world's fastest man. Well, he's not the world's fastest man. Everyone apparently is faster than him. You have the world's greatest detective. Well, and crime fighter. Well, is he? Because Gotham sucks.
And
It's
we
the worst
never
place
let
to
him
live.
actually beat someone, or at least
Yeah,
we got to
exactly.
resurrect them somehow.
Yeah, Superman, how has he just not ended every crisis? How has he not gone to Putin and stopped his Russian propaganda?
It does get pretty hard to explain it. It's like, okay, they're fast enough that they can basically, like, the Flash can basically jump through freaking time at this point. Batman has enough money to build a secret base that orbits the Earth on a satellite somewhere. Superman could basically just, like, rip the planet in half with his bare hands if he really wanted to. How are they not solving more problems?
And they've solved nothing. They have done absolutely nothing to
Like,
save
they would
the
somehow
world.
fail to help an old lady across the street.
In a recent Flash episode, you have the Flash using his powers trying to catch up to a motorcycle. Like the motorcycle's winning in this chase scene. That it should be like the motorcycle leaves and then like in 2 seconds Flash is like, boom, I stopped you.
I'm
be
waiting
fair,
for
that
Benny
is
to give us
the-
the smackdown here. He's got to look.
I've got to look. It's the CW. You can't count. I mean, what? It's
Yeah, it's cheesy.
it's so terrible. I mean, I watched some of the episodes of the 1990 Flash series the other day, and that is so much better.
I
Like-
want you if I ever get reprimanded, I want you to be the one. I love your voice.
Well,
You'd
thank
be
you.
like, Tyler, like your book sucked.
Wait till he gives you the "I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed."
That's right.
To the CW, I was really excited because the first season of Arrow had a
So
lot
good.
of potential. It was really good, and as a take on Green Arrow, it was fresh and it was exciting and it was good.
I enjoyed it.
And then even the first season of The Flash was actually pretty solid. It had a pretty compelling, twist with the Reverse Flash and all that. Then it just goes off the rails.
And then it got real weird.
Yeah, a lot of people were really hyped for the Superman and Lois TV show. And the first season was really good, but it's the CW. So I was like, the first seasons are usually good. And then it goes bad, and it goes really bad. And
I think the problem is the Arrow
Vancouver.
season 1 and 2 were very, I think, dark and gritty. And you saw a side of Arrow where he's like, I'm going to kill. There was just a lot of conflict with his character. And then you bring in the Flash. And now you have to bring in comedy. And now there's comedy. And then every season just kept getting more and more cheesy. And now the crossover is when you see a fight scene, you're like, oh man, I love watching Power Rangers. I love watching the Power Ranger fight scenes because that's what it looks like.
It's almost like they didn't have a coherent plan from the beginning. And maybe this could be a part of it, because I know one argument that could be made is like, well, you know what? We're trying to make these characters go for a long, long time. So of course we have to stretch certain things out. But I could actually see a case made for, well, hey, if we create, in the case of Batman, like this Batman universe, we can just say, okay, certain stories have bookends on them, and we have an idea of what the beginning and the end is. And then from there, we can either retell the story with a little bit different take, or we can bring in new characters. How could we approach it?
Superheroes, I think the mainstream, like Marvel and DC, I think they have the easiest out with all of their heroes. Just make them legacies. Batman is a legacy character. The first person to become Batman was Bruce Wayne, and he has his mission for his reasons, his conflict, his villains. And then he passes the mantle down to Dick Grayson. And we had that for a bit. And I really liked Dick Grayson as a Batman. He had some jokes. There were moments where Jim Gordon would turn off the bat signal and turn around. And he goes, "Oh, I'm not used to you still being there." And Dick would be like, "Oh, I'm sorry." There was all these fun moments, and because he was his own unique Batman. And then maybe we get a Damian Wayne Batman. He's a little more brutal, but then he has his own character arcs. And you still have Batman, but you have different people taking on the mantle, and then they have their own villains. So then at that point, when someone goes, "Oh, Dad, what's your favorite Batman?" I go, "Oh, my favorite's Bruce Wayne Batman." And he had some awesome villains like the Joker and blah, blah. And now you can explore Bruce Wayne's history as Batman. But then you can go, "Oh, but I also like Dick Grayson's Batman." And this was his story, his character arc. To me, that's what I would do if I was in charge. You have all these flashes, and when I started reading comics, Barry Allen wasn't even around. So I only had like Wally West.
Some of the best stories were Wally West too. Like the whole Speed Force stuff was really Wally West, stories. It wasn't Barry Allen went into the Speed Force, but that was a retcon after Infinite Crisis.
But as a reader, they would throw out stuff about Barry. And it would make me go, "Oh, like there was one JLA issue, and they're like you're not stop treating me like I'm Barry." And I was like, "Oh, and I got this really cool character moment," and it made me go, "Oh, I don't know anything about Barry." So then it makes me want to go check out Barry's run of the Flash and see what was it like when he was the Flash. But now in comics, nothing matters. No character deaths mean anything. I know they're going to I think they're going to kill the Justice League, or they already did.
Yeah, they already did.
It seems like, just to push back a little, it does seem like they're trying to pass these mantles on, so to speak. But the problem I see is it never gets passed on without a character assassination preceding it.
Yes.
Where they just destroy everything that the character was and stood for. I mean, I'll be honest, a lot of representation as far as who's going to take over the mantle. And it's like, okay, but you still got to make a good character. And you're kind of starting on the wrong foot when you make this character and immediately have to demonstrate to me that this character is somehow better than the one that's been doing it for 30 plus years.
Oh, yeah. There was
start them off at the bottom and build them up as you go.
Yeah, with the new John Kent, there was just a recent article, and they're like 10 superpowers that this Superman has that the original didn't. And it's like, he just got these?
Yeah, that doesn't make him a more compelling character. Yeah. That makes him worse, because most people, their biggest complaint with Superman is, he's too powerful, which is kind of the character. But at the same time, making one even more powerful, I think makes it even worse.
This is one of those story construction challenges too. It's something I know when I've been working on the character set for my Petro Patriot series, is that it's not just that the power exists, but the power exists for a narrative purpose. The reason Superman has the powers he does is because a big part of his challenge is, when do I use these powers and when do I not? And what does that say about me as Superman and as Clark Kent? Right. And in a similar sense with Batman, the reason he doesn't have superpowers is because, and I believe it was Literature Devil did a great video on this, that a big part of his value system is the cardinal virtue of fortitude, that no matter how tough it gets, the Batman just does not stop. And no matter what he gets thrown against, he finds a way to keep going. And so this is, even when we talk about mantles, this is one thing that we can say, okay, what does fortitude mean when it's expressed as Bruce Wayne? What does fortitude mean when it's expressed as the next guy, right? So there is a way that what we could call this mantle could actually be passed, and it's just that they're not respecting it in that way. They're not thinking about it in that narrative sense.
But also respect what the character was before.
Yes.
When Batman died in Final Crisis, he quote unquote kills Darkseid by using one of his guns. And he makes a joke I don't normally use guns, but I'll make an exception for you. Shoots Darkseid, gets hit with an Omega Ray, dies. And then after that, it's he died a hero. He ended Final Crisis, and now who's going to take up the Batman?
And we all had to live with it.
Yeah. What's the world like without Batman? And so then at that point, then they had an arc after that where Tim was trying to get the mantle, Damian wanted the mantle, Dick Grayson wanted the mantle, and then Jason Todd wanted the mantle. It was called Battle for the Cow. And they were all trying to be Batman, and then eventually it became where Dick was I'm taking up the mantle. And so you have respect to the character, and then now we can move on. Whereas this, They're just like, yeah, we want John to be Superman, so let's just kill Superman and let's just like get this over with. I'm sure I know there's an event and they went to some space world and blah blah blah, but I mean I don't care because I don't read because I know he's gonna be back. But also with the powers as well. In the girl with the mega fist, I've like laid out all their powers and like when they're gonna get certain ones. And each power that they get and use is very specific to their development. So in the first like couple chapters, like first 2 chapters, while Eliana is training with her father, he's like, "Yo, you need to hit me. You don't want to use violence. You need to use your like a super mega powerful whatever thing on me." And so we see her use a specific power on her father, and it knocks him out, but he was kind of like, maybe next time do a little more damage, and she was kind of reluctant doing it. Well, later on in the volume, there's going to come a point where she actually has to do it, and she's still reluctant, and she's now pushed into this moment where if she doesn't use this power, people are going to die, and if she does use this power, it's going to obliterate a lot of things. And so she chooses to use this power. You get to see it in its full force, and she grows as a character, realizing, okay, I do have this power. I am capable of this, and I understand the consequences of it. But if I was just to go, Eliana has these 5 powers, and she has them always, it just wouldn't be exciting. It wouldn't be exciting to the reader. You'd be like, oh, she's trying to get these powers. It's better to have the character earn the powers. It's fun for the readers instead of just be like, oh yeah, and Superman has like ice breath, heat vision. He can do everything.
Super speed, super strength. He can fly, ice breath, heat vision, laser eyes.
Wait, it's like playing a video game. It's like playing a video game, and when you turn on the game, you have everything.
It's God mode.
Some games where you you buy like the beefed up package, so to speak, and they give you like starting items that are awesome. I've played a couple RPGs like that, and it ruins it because it's just like I'm one-shotting everything. Like,
yeah,
there's no challenge. That's why Final Fantasy VIII was kind of bad for me, because I figured out that junction system so quick that I broke it, and I was one-shotting every boss up until like the last 3.
I was going to say, but if you're a game journalist, though, isn't that what you want?
Oh my gosh.
If you're a game journalist, you can't get through the Cuphead tutorial. I mean...
But where's the easy mode? Where's the easy mode? I don't want to get better. I don't want progression, and I don't want to be a better player.
Press X to play the boss defeat animation.
Yes. I played this Naruto game, and there was like the promotion was like there's gonna be like these quick time moments, and I was like, I don't really like quick time gameplay, but whatever. Oh my gosh, it wasn't just like hit X multiple times. They would throw like 10 buttons at you, and you had like 2 seconds to hit all 10 buttons. And it took me like 20 tries on some of these boss fights. And I remember spending 3 hours with my brother trying to beat this one boss. And when we were done, I threw the controller, and we were like, yes, we did it. Oh my gosh, I'm the best. And then like, point to the TV like, fuck you. That was such a good moment. Like, I'm always going to remember that moment, playing 3 hours, the same boss with my brother, keep like, all right, your turn, passing it. If that was just given away, like the most boring moments in, movie, TV, books, and video games is just feeling like you haven't earned it. You haven't earned the moment.
So I like is when they give you the tutorial where you have all this stuff and then they take it away. So there is, that way it kind of gives you a taste of what you'll get by the end, like how you can, all the like skill set and weapons that you'll have, and then they can do something to like strip that from you. They did that in Destiny, when they did Destiny 2. And they like, by the time you played the first Destiny, you were like top tier God mode, like you're taking down the gods of the game. But for Destiny 2, they did a thing where they stripped you of what they called light, and you got like, you lost all your equipment, you had nothing, and you were back to like low tier again, and it made sense story wise. Now, whatever you want to say about Destiny's end game and how good they handled that, but its mechanics are amazing. You can't knock the mechanics. So, but. It's a good
like
point.
I've said many times, it's a really well polished quarter of a game.
I've never played Destiny, so I have no idea.
It's super short. That's the problem.
Well, you can.
It touts itself as an MMO, but you can knock out the main story in about 4 hours. Honestly, if you don't focus on any of the extra stuff, about 4 hours you can knock out the main storyline.
What's funny is I'll play video games because I only play in like 20 to 30 minute spurts, so that 4 hours could be like 3 weeks for me. And I'll be like, man, that was such a long game. When in reality, I just don't play enough video games.
That's one of the reasons, like, why my job on this show is to like not know what's going on is because like I'm thinking about this. I don't think I've played any video games in like at least 6 months now.
How does that make you feel?
Well, I'll tell you what, I remember once I was like at the Costco and a guy was asking me about my cable subscription. I'm like, I don't have a subscription. It's like, what, do you just like watch videos online? It's like, well, I mean, I guess sometimes, but like, I don't do a lot of music. What do you do?
Yeah, that was actually my next question then. What do you do?
Well, of course, I'm working on my own comic right now, but also too that was just I've got a business doing not websites, but like web-based software, and I signed up way too many customers last year.
Oh, that's
And
exciting. That means you're working yourself to death.
yeah, at least they're paying me for it.
Yeah, like that. That's good. That's always good. You know, it is hard to be a comic book creator, put out a consistent comic, and then watch TV or movies, or gosh, even play video games. At least with maybe TV or movies, I could put it up on the screen and draw to it. But then I'm drawing a little slower, so I have to watch stuff that I've already watched because then I listen to the audio. But then I don't know all the shows that are happening.
Writing or drawing or anything like that, it's usually a lot of mood music.
Yes.
Or like a podcast that I can just listen to while I'm working.
Podcasts or like lo-fi.
Yeah, stuff that I don't have to look at.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
I would say, speaking of mood music, tell me something that you guys like, because
I listen to a whole bunch of random anime opening songs because I'm also a huge weeb. So like the Shadow House song, a whole bunch of other, I don't even know.
In my case, it's all like various types of trance music. It's like Infected Mushroom, Pegboard Nerds, Spangle. If you like getting into like,
Ooh, I do a lot of
It's
Infected Mushroom and Less Friction and things like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, and then also Asterix. They're real good. How about you, Tyler?
I listen to a lot of electronic music when I draw. Millennium, Last Heroes, Dabin. I'm just reading these because I don't actually care who made the song. I just put it on and I go, yeah, that was good.
There you go.
That it just pumps me up. But if you're like, Tyler, I heard you like listen to Millennium, he just came out with a new album, I'd be like, oh, I don't care.
Like maybe he's got a good song out of that. We'll see.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I listen to the DJ who then remixes all the best songs. And then I go, oh, hey, sweet. Well, maybe the DJ will put that new song in my mix because I don't care about the actual artist.
There you go, man.
Yeah, so I live up to my stereotype. I like soundtrack music, and I usually listen to that.
Yep.
I got the Star Wars soundtracks. I got when I was I think it was when I was in middle school. They put out a James Bond anniversary CD set where it had like all the musical scores from the movies, and I bought that. And my brothers were like, "Why would you want that?" It's like, why wouldn't I want that?
Yeah.
Like,
and after the mood music, one other one I want to bring up too, and this is one of the interesting things about the creators, like you do have to go out and consume other entertainment content in order to kind of find inspiration for your stories.
we have to consume more product and get excited for next product.
But instead of consuming product, it's kind of like you go find stuff that's actually good and then say, it's like, okay, well, why was this good? And every once in a while when you make a mistake and consume product, it's like, okay, why was that awful?
Jake Parker, he's an artist. He created Inktober. He's the one who created that. Well, it's not little, it's massive.
I was going to say, my 13-year-old daughters both participate in that at this point.
It's absolutely massive.
But didn't he turn into kind of a tool about Inktober?
No. I will defend Jake because
am I thinking of somebody else?
No. So what happened was he copyrighted Inktober. And everyone thought, oh, if I use the logo, I'm going to get sued. And it was totally blown out of proportion. He's like, no, I copyrighted the Inktober logo so that other companies who I'm working with, if they make stickers or shirts, I get royalties from it. That's all.
I just want to figure out if like National Waifu Association, if you've seen those patches, if it's not copyrighted, I want to like copy left it and just make it open source.
I've told you before, you have to be really careful about that because the initials mean something else.
Yes,
for a lot of people. I mean, Dre will come at you if you start doing
yeah. I see like Common America and Rags have done it, and
yep.
No.
Well, it's also because
they're the only two.
National Waifu Association, NWA. It's a problem.
Yeah. So we're not gonna go by the abbreviation for that one, but we also know if you look at the logo, it is a play on the National Rifle Association. So
yeah, and I think it might.
I think they've got bigger guns.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
If they're anime style, that's right.
But yeah, going back to like what Jake Parker, he has this analogy where you have every creator has their creative bank account, and you have as you withdraw from your bank account, you eventually will hit zero, and you need to start depositing into your creator bank account.
True.
Whether that's watching a movie, TV, playing video games, going on a walk, like watching people interact. You do need to make some deposits. I think to be creative, you do need to go get out, touch grass.
That's right. And I know another illustration I like using for it is it's kind of like if you're going to paint a painting, right? Like you have the palette of the different colors and you can mix those colors together, right? To create like your full palette, right? That can even be said with story elements too. And this is everything down to like, I have a dystopian society and I said, hey, like, what if there's like a sawdust derived bread called saw bread? Well, the thing is, like, that's actually derived from a book I just finished and we talked about on episode 19, in fact, the diving into dystopias, called Paris in the 20th Century. It was a dystopian novel written in the 1850s. And the guy talked about coal bread because he's like, oh, with synthetic chemistry, they're going to make bread out of coal. And so like saw bread was just, to use the palette analogy, is like I'm taking his coal bread and then out of my research in renewables, right? I'm like, well, there's all this stuff we did with sawdust to try to make stuff out of it. So it's like, why don't we just combine these concepts and make saw bread?
There you go.
And in fact, I think there's even a movie about this called Everything's a Remix, in which you're right, like that is part of the creative process. Like if you're not depositing all these different ideas, like you don't have anything to combine and transform.
Oh yeah, 100%.
All right, cool. Well, I know we're starting to close the hour, but I had one more question. Some of the other guys are too. I can see you there, Vinny. So how about you go first?
My question? All right, fine. Twist my arm. So
he's not mad. He's disappointed.
You have such a calm voice.
But you know you're in trouble, dude. You know
he's not in trouble. It's a legitimate question about just, you've talked about like getting in and getting out of, comic books for a little bit. Do you feel like comic books as a product have a viable future to support people? Because I mean, it's kind of a broad question, but it's something that comes up a lot because in mainstream comics, if you look at the sales, like if DC and Marvel can't sell more than 40 or 50,000 issues a month of, some of their top tier characters, I think there's a lot of intimidation for people looking at the space and wondering if it's something I can succeed in. So you've talked about some of the, stuff that you've been through with that. Do you think, is this something you do plan on continuing to do for 15, 20 years?
Yeah, that's a good question. I believe that there is definitely room for many creators to make a living off of this. I really do. I don't think that a lot of creators who we might know or we see on the internet who will make livings off of this because they don't understand business, marketing, and I'm not even talking about being a DC or Marvel artist. I'm just talking about indies. There are so many platforms now to get your comic made, to post your comic, to build an audience. There are so many ways to make streams of income for you to become a comic book creator. And I just don't think creators, they're just so narrow-minded on a lot of these things that they don't look at how they can build rather than they're just so focused on making their comic. And there's just so many other ways to make this a full-time job and support a family and whatnot.
Not to mention like just taking the idea and putting it into different formats. Because it's like, hey, once you got the idea, like you can do a comic, you can do written work, you can do art collections. And I know like in your case, like I know you've got Patreon, you've got the Kickstarter you're doing. So even for the same product, you can deliver that in multiple avenues.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Kickstarter is just like step one. I've got places I'm going to be dumping this book. But I'm not focusing on just the book as the sales thing. I also do YouTube. So, right now I make around $120 a month off YouTube. And I know that if I can get X amount of views and get $120 a month, how many views do I need to get $500 a month or 1,000? Now you start breaking it down. So now I need to make these kind of videos so I can get this many views. So then I can bring in this. So now I can get, maybe a 500 to 1,000 right here. That'll cover some bills. And then if I can also get some ebook sales over here, and if I can get X amount of this, and once you start gamifying where all the money comes from and having multiple streams of income, that's when you start playing 3D chess when it comes to being a creator. Because I see a lot of creators who are like, oh my gosh, like my Kickstarter, they rely so much on Kickstarter and nothing else. There's no plan B, C, D on where it's just Kickstarter and then we'll get on to the next Kickstarter. They don't think, what's the next step for your book? Like I've asked several creators, hey, I saw your book. It looks interesting. Where can I get your book? You can wait till the next Kickstarter. We'll have it up. It'll be available in 2 months. It's like, well, I have $5 right now and I will not have $5 in 2 months because I'm going to forget. So you just lost a sale.
When it comes to Kickstarter, I think of it kind of like a restaurant that also has a booth at the state fair, right? Like the state fair is this big annual event, right? Like it's a big party, ton of people show up, and hopefully like you're in that spot where you like, make a killing on it. But then like you're just sitting there for the rest of the year. Like, you can have a restaurant, you can do catering, right? Like you can do all these things. There's a couple of creators who you're right, like they are Kickstarter only, and sometimes like, hey man, their campaign's done and I want their comic and I can't get it.
Unfortunately. And like my channel used to be very centered on how to make comics and, all these different avenues and platforms you could use to post your comics. I took down all those videos because I was like, you know what? No one's listening. No one cares. And all creators want is just a handout. Not all creators, but a lot of them. And so really at this point, the best way to learn at this point, at least for me, is follow by example. Find your creator North Star, go, oh, I want to be like that person. See what they're doing in their ecosystem of being a creator and go, okay, is it possible for me to do this? And if so, what are the steps that I need to take to get there? People will look at Common America and they'll go, oh my gosh, I wish I could put out 3 books a year, have a whole freaking convention with all of my branding on it. They just announced that they're in a video game. How can I do all of that? It's like, well, okay, you can't. But let's take step 1. What's step 1? How about you make a good looking comic? And then you take it step by step until you grow. But a lot of creators, they just want to skip to the end. And when it doesn't happen, they die and they stop creating because they didn't have a game plan. Am I going to be doing this for 15, 20 years? I hope so. I have a plan for the next 7 to 8 years to be putting out the Growth of Megafist. And I have a plan each year on what's going to evolve in my creator business. But I know I need to do step 1 first, but step 3, 4. That was a long way to answer your question.
But I think, you hit 2 good points there because I do think it's actually, you're right, it's a time of opportunity that on the one hand, like we see some of these big companies where sales are going down, but it could also be like they're just experiencing kind of a creative death of their own. And we're actually like in the indie space, we're seeing this new discovery of like who are going to be the new titles for the medium, because maybe the medium itself will hang on once we've got.
But also, what is the medium?
Yeah.
Have any of you guys heard of Lore Olympus?
I have not.
None of you guys have heard of Lore Olympus. It's got 5 million readers. 7 million readers on Webtoons. 7 million readers on Webtoons. They give it out for free. Okay, she's making no money. False. She makes $20,000 on her Patreon every month. Okay, that's cool, but she's not in stores. False. She now has a deal with HarperCollins where they're going to collect the pages and they're going to put them into hardback books. And each one of them is a New York Times bestseller. How do you become a New York Times bestseller? You need to have at least 10 to 20,000 pre-orders of your book before it releases. So,
and how do you do that? You put it on Webtoons.
Yes. So the fact that each one of her books are doing over 20K in sales. Each book, by the way, is $40 because it's like that thick hardback. And a lot of the people that I surround myself with, and you guys don't know who she is because she's on a platform that people go, why would I put my comic on this scrolling site for free? And every creator can make a decision. I mean, I haven't done it, but what I'm saying is comics are more than just floppies and going to a comic book store and whatnot. Comics are, have you guys seen that Netflix show Hellbound?
Well, it's kind of a beauty of the technology of the times. Yeah. There is a way to get your stuff out to an audience. You just got to be willing to take what might not be the traditional path.
Yes. I mean, have you heard of Merryweather Comics? He's a writer.
Yeah, we talked about it before.
Yeah, I follow him quite a bit. Yeah.
Dude, that's my creator North Star. He's putting out a comic every single day. He has he has voiceover actors and they put it on YouTube. So while he's getting millions of subscribers on Webtoons, he has hundreds of thousands of views on these videos that are bringing in anywhere from $2,000 to $4,000, every 2 or 3 days. He's making comics and a lot of my friends don't even know who he is. And they're like, why would I put my comic on YouTube? Why would I? Like, he doesn't even have a printed book. And people go, why would I do that? It goes, listen, he's a full-time creator. You're not. You figure out like who's doing the wrong steps, my friend. He's my creator North Star. I'd love to, figure out how to do that and I'm not there yet. But there's just so many different outlets that creators don't look into because they're still so like traditionally minded of you make your book, it turns into a floppy or a graphic novel and you print it and then you move on to the next one. But it's like, but what if you could put it on YouTube and get people involved in that? And maybe you spend an extra couple $100 and you animate a couple of the panels and get some voiceovers. What if you did throw it up on one of these webtoon sites? None of your friends are going to read it, so maybe you just don't tell anyone and you see if you can get some organic growth from doing that.
Yeah, and I know we talked earlier about Common America. It's like I actually kind of understand now like why they started doing the webtoon. It's not only because, right, as you're writing the main story, like I'm starting to learn this writing my own stories, there's always content that you can't quite fit in, and therefore it's a great outlet for that. But also, too, it's because there are going to be casual readers that aren't ready to commit to like purchasing your products yet. And
yes,
but they are happy to be billboards and get your name out there. So you write content for each platform because again, it's out of this central idea, not this idea of like, okay, I'm going to do this one thing and it's going to go this one way and it's going to be awesome. Because you're right, when you apply that to storytelling, you create bad stories. And when you apply that to the business side, like you're gambling everything on just one thing going right.
Last year, I told everyone I was going to put one of my series on the webtoons. Everyone was like, you're dumb. Tim actually phone called me and was like, hey, we're actually going to do a Common America series on webtoon. You're not dumb. And his mentality was, listen, we're going to make this book. What's the worst thing that happens? I get 1 to 2 extra backers. And then once we're done with the series, we can print a new book and get sales. Like there's no downside to it. So what is the downside of posting your comic book on webtoons? Because your friends who are like, webtoons is stupid, they're not even going to go and read it for free because they don't want to download an app and they don't want to read it scrolling. So like they're not even the audience for it. There are kids who are like, I'm reading webtoons every day of my life, and you are not even touching them. You're not even giving them the opportunity to read your book. There's just a ton of platforms out there. I have a friend, he's got 1 million followers on TikTok, 1 million. He posts his books on an obscure website and it now has an app. And he has, none of you guys have heard of it. I know I hadn't heard of it until like months ago. It has 1 million reads. You telling me that there's 1 million people who came on this obscure app and website that no one on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook is talking about, and he has 1 million reads? There's 1 million people reading comics on this site. Why am I not posting on there? Yes, it's free. I'm not going to be making any money, but I'm already not making money. What's the worst thing that happens? They read the digital and then I go, hey, I now have a physical, and you convert some of those people to sales.
It's kind of minimal risk until it starts costing you money. That's when it's a problem. And there's plenty of those services out there. Oh yeah, we'll publish your shit if you pay us.
Hey, that's what I also do that part of my publishing job. I know it's dirty, but I'm just getting paid to do it.
Oh, you're one of those.
No, we do both. We do both sides. We're like, hey, we will publish your book and take on all the work, but if we think it sucks, we'll have you pay for everything.
I mean, as long as you're straight with them and you go, this is a vanity project, it's not going to make you money.
100%. Oh yeah, 100%. Sometimes one person I was like, hey dude, I've worked it out. It's going to cost you $30,000. Please run. Please don't make me bill you. And they're like, no, I really believe in the project. And I'm like, trust me, it's not a good project, and I'm going to bill you $30,000. He goes, I have the 30 grand. I was like, please don't do this. Well, he gave me the 30 grand. And every day I'm working on this project. I'm like, gosh, this looks like a butthole. But my new slogan at work is, listen, I make dreams come. That's you want your book, you're willing to pay 30 grand. I'm here to make your dream come true. I'm coming at this thing as a writer artist. If you have to hire an artist, yeah, throwing your shit out for free on the internet, that's going to seem costly and you're going to be hurting. It's not for everyone. Like, I'm a writer artist and I can say go to these, but if you're a writer having to spend thousands of dollars to keep posting, that's hard.
Yeah, but then again, if you're a writer, there's different outlets for writing. Or in our case too, you can also start up a podcast, just start talking to people. So there are ways.
I mean, I hate to support the man, but my first book, like, I just published it on Amazon for free. It cost me nothing.
And that's a great place to do it.
Yeah.
You know what? This is an Amazon copy. I'm using a different printer, but once the Kickstarter is done in the Indiegogo, we jack up the price from $15 to $20, and I chuck it up on Amazon's KDP. And you go, oh, because I hate inventory. I'm the worst. I'm the worst at shipping. You make an order on my website, you'll get it in 2 months because I'm terrible at shipping. So I figured, what if someone goes, hey, I missed your Kickstarter. Where can I get it? Here, get it on Amazon, $20, and they print and ship it for free. And if you want it for cheaper, wait till the Kickstarter. But some creators like, oh, like I'm not going to go on Amazon, like blah, blah, blah. It's like, fine, then don't. But I will get some residual income, and I didn't have to lift a finger, and you can work your ass off. I'm trying to not work my ass off.
They actually did a pretty good job with their publishing and like royalties and everything. It's like, because I mapped it out when I first did mine, and I just published it to Kindle format, right? And it's like, I was charging $3 because I'm nobody and I'd never written anything. And for every copy sold, like I got $2.55 or something like that. So
like, yeah, and you don't have to lift a finger. Why wouldn't you do that? If someone buys it, I think I make $4 or $5. It's actually not a lot compared to what I make on the Kickstarter. But if I don't have to lift a finger, $4 or $5, yeah, give me $4 or $5 today.
There you go. And I think that's one of the things I'm really loving about this conversation here is like there are so many options, and some of them are traditional, some of them are technology, and there's something that everybody could be doing now. And I love that fact. And it's just
100%.
You just got to do it.
100%.
All right. Let's see. We got anything else, guys?
No, my question got answered, so I'm good.
I have nothing further. The defense rests.
You're the defense or the prosecution, Joey?
That's right. The prosecution rests.
All right.
You're the defense. You came into this house.
That's right.
This whole damn place is out of order.
Well, I guess there's the one question we try to ask every creator, because I'm not sure if I got it early in the episode. When you were making, we'll just go through with the Mega Fist. So when you were making that story, was there anything that you decided you had to make a major change in your story before it went out? Did you say, it's like, wait, no, this is a change I got to make?
My story's perfect.
Or maybe even just in the early concepting, like you just wrote something, you're like, man, this is too freaking silly. I can't.
I had to add, like, I gave her some cleavage because I was like, this is where the money's at. Like, show them off. No.
Okay. Anime, if you're listening, go find that sunset cover.
I mean, I believe all of these so far.
Yes.
Yeah, no, something that I had to change. I'll tell you what I had to change. I had to change my mindset into thinking that there were rules to creating. This is going to be a really long-winded answer, like all of my answers. So
that's cool.
If you guys know, you guys have heard of the book Rags by Brian Ball?
Yeah.
Luigi Tuero. Okay. So I have the trade paperback. I'm reading it. I'm like, I'm having a silly goose time. And I start going, this page ended on this side of the page. That's weird. Let me start counting the pages because I'm weird like that. And I go, okay, this one was 20 pages. Standard. This one's 37. Okay, that's weird. This one's 25. Okay, that's weird. So I remember, and I'm good friends with Brian. And so I message him. I go, hey, dude, you have weird page counts. He goes, I do whatever the fuck I want. And I went, yeah, but there are like rules. And go, says who? And I immediately went, oh my gosh. So my book Chefs, which is the one, the Kickstarter that I canceled it because I was like, crap, like I'm just binding myself to these imaginary rules. Why does my book have to be 60 pages? Like, why did I have to make a 60-page book? Why does it have to be broken into like 3 different issues that are 20 pages? Why did I do that? And so with writing The Girl with the Mega Fist, I started doing that where I was just like, okay, like I only have room for this in the story. So like one of the examples is I had a fight scene. I started drawing it and I'm like, the fight ended in like 5 pages. And I was like, man, that didn't really like give the impact I wanted it. But I have to stay within this 10 to 12 page chapter range because all my chapters are 10 to 12 pages. Why do my pages have to be 10 to 12 chapters? Like, why am I giving myself this stupid rule? I'm going to make this fight scene as long as I want. And so I just kept doodling and it ended up being 36 pages and it's freaking awesome. And so it made the book a little longer. But because of it, now this fight scene isn't just like really quick. It's, there's narrative, there's conflict. You have characters going back and forth. There's character development and all of that writing came because I didn't I didn't give myself any rules. I didn't say, oh, like I only have 5 pages left, I have to stop here. It was, no, I can do whatever I want because I'm in control. And I've talked with some DC and Marvel writers, and they're always like, yeah, you have to really get your story beats down so that you can hit the 22 pages to 22 page floppy. That means, you might have to cut some stuff out. And like, for me, I'm like, well, I don't have, like, there's no gun to my head. I can do whatever I want. Why am I giving myself all these constraints?
I'm thinking about this because I've got family in the printing industry. And as soon as you said 22 pages, I'm thinking, oh, of course, because the 11 by 17 is technically 4 pages. So they're thinking 24 front cover, back cover, and then 22 inside. And it's really just like a printing industry constraint when we don't have that constraint necessarily.
Exactly. And like, Girl with the Megafist, like, it's a digital comic first, so like I don't even have these printing constraints. It's digital. Look at like Common America, like they've given themselves the rule of a 54-page story every volume, and I'm sure that at some point Tim and Mark were like, there are other stories that we want to tell that don't fit in this 54-page book. So what do? We throw those extra stories on Webtoon. And for me, so for them, they go, we want to do this thing. Let's just throw it up on those. Let's make them and throw it up on Webtoon. And for me, I go, I'm just going to add 36 pages and I don't give a crap. So there's no gun to our head as indie creators. If you feel like you want to do something, do it. If you feel like, oh, like why, like, oh, I had to cut this scene. Why? Why'd you have to cut the scene? Was it a good scene? Did you enjoy the scene? Was it fun making the scene? Put the scene in there. If you think it's that good. If it's crap, yeah, cut it. We don't want it. But if you really feel like this is pushing your story forward, then yeah, like throw it in. There are no rules. And when you take out the fact that there are no rules in this, that's when creating gets really, really fun.
Instead of the rule being that we're constrained by aspects of the industry, because I can even just think of like the number of pieces of paper, and they're probably thinking like, okay, 28 pages worth of content, front, back, cover, this many ads. And that's probably like, that's their constraint. So like they're trying to force the creativity into that constraint. But you're right, like it's a whole new world. It's totally different rules, but the rules are now around how do we make the best story that engages our readers? And that is a good thing.
100%.
Yeah, we can bend the other rules because at the end, I mean, that's what all the creation is for, is we want to serve our readers.
Exactly. Serve your reader. Yeah, exactly. 100%. I'm not even going to add on to that. 100%.
Awesome. Just tell us, where can people check you out? Where can people check out your titles? And tell us again about your Kickstarter.
Yeah, so you can find me actively on Twitter at Tyler_C_world. You can also find me actively on youtube.com/DrawandTalk, where we have a live show every week and then 2 pre-recorded episodes. And then you can check out, you can find The Girl with the Megafist as of right now on Kickstarter. And then if you're watching this in a couple weeks, you can find it on Indiegogo. And if you're watching this episode way in the future, you can find it on Amazon or drawandtalkcomics.com. The Girl with the Megafist is, I really need to get my pitch down, like, good on this. The Girl with the Megafist is the epic tale about a girl fighting against love and destiny while training to become the ultimate hero. Will she choose love, or will she choose her destiny and responsibility? You will have to find out in our awesome story. 200 pages, $15.
Nice. Well, man, let's all have a good night and see you all next week.
Okay, bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.